The arrogance of the Empire. The Imperial Soviet cruiser Valek's Pride drifted above the blue and white orb the charts called Terror. Its captain, Admiral KSAR, peered through the holographic display, his mandibles twitching with amusement. Another mudball, he muttered, tail flicking lazily. Reports say the locals still burn fossil fuels for energy. Iron Age industry. Tribal governments. A quaint place. Around him, his officers murmured in agreement. To the Thalari Empire, Earth was just another speck to be added to their endless domain. A resource pit, not a threat. They'd conquered a dozen worlds this cycle alone, crushing each with the same formula. A show of force, a negotiated surrender, and swift assimilation. But their probes had been wrong. The first landings took place in what the humans called New York, Beijing, and Lagos. Dropships descended like silver raindrops, disgorging squads of armored Thalari troops. They expected kneeling crowds. They got something very different. On a Manhattan street, a squad translator drone barely began its pre-recorded ultimatum. Submit peacefully to the Thalari Empire and you will be spa. Before the first shot rang out. A bullet, crude by galactic standards, but fast, hot, and accurate, punched straight through a trooper's helmet. Chaos erupted. In Lagos, dropships were met with firebombs made from gasoline and shattered bottles. In Beijing, a unit marching across a bridge vanished in a roar of flame as humans detonated charges beneath their feet. These were not the cowed primitives KSAR expected. Reports flooded Valek's Pride. Casualties. Sabotaged equipment. Entire patrols missing. KSAR's mandibles clicked in irritation. Statistical noise, he hissed to his staff. They have no fleet, no shields, no. But the numbers climbed. Humanity, for all its primitiveness, fought like nothing the Thalari had ever seen. They didn't retreat when outgunned. They improvised. A shattered skyscraper became a weapon when humans rigged its supports and dropped it onto a landing zone, crushing 3 dropships beneath tons of steel. The Admiral called up surveillance footage, ragged humans in mismatched uniforms, working together without hesitation. Soldiers, yes, but also farmers, engineers, students, all wielding whatever weapons they could find or make. They should be cowering, one junior officer muttered, confused. KSAR stayed at the screen. One image caught his eye, a young human standing on a ruined street, holding an assault rifle patched with tape. His face was dirty, blood streaked his arm, but his eyes burned with something the Admiral couldn't name. Defiance. KSAR's tail twitched, the first flicker of unease creeping into his voice. Signal the fleet, he ordered coldly. Tell them, the primitives resist. Down on Earth, humanity was already preparing its next ambush. And for the first time in centuries, the Thalari Empire had found a world that would not kneel. The first blow. The second fleet came like a storm. Where the first wave had been a policing action, this was a war armada, 5 heavy cruisers, 20 destroyers, and troop carriers stacked with thousands of soldiers. Admiral KSAR stood on the command deck of Valek's Pride as reinforcements warped in, his confidence restored by sheer numbers. This time, he hissed, the humans will break. But Earth wasn't the same planet they had landed on weeks before. From bunkers beneath mountains, submarines lurking in deep oceans, and forests turned into fortresses, humanity had prepared. Nations that had spent decades glaring at one another across borders suddenly found themselves allies. Chinese satellites shared targeting data with American missiles. Russian hackers jammed alien communications for Brazilian strike teams. The Empire's arrogance became its weakness. In the gray pre-dawn over the Pacific, alien troop carriers descended toward a remote atoll for refueling. They never saw the torpedoes coming. Human submarines, long obsolete against other humans, shredded alien hulls with primitive weapons, but metal under pressure didn't care about sophistication. In the Sahara, a column of armored walkers lumbered across the dunes, confident in their shimmering energy shields. From a distance, humans triggered buried charges, old Soviet tank mines, and the desert erupted. Shrapnel and sand tore into joints and optics, blinding machines that were supposed to be invincible. By noon, KSAR's command screens were cluttered with frantic reports. They adapt too fast, growled Commander V. Hell, slamming his claw into the display. We'll land here. They ambush there. We jam their weapons. They use something new. They are primitives, KSAR snapped. Do not dignify them with more than that. But deep down, even he knew it was changing. In a gutted warehouse in Warsaw, a group of human engineers hunched over the wreckage of an alien rifle. Its power cell glowed faintly, still functional. 3 days, muttered one, a young woman with oil smeared across her cheek. Give me 3 days, and I'll turn this into something we can build. She did it in 2. Soon, human militias were fielding crude energy rifles, shields cobbled from alien components, and even homemade EMP grenades. Entire alien patrols were wiped out by weapons made in garages. The breaking point came when a battered alien destroyer limped too close to the Andes and crashed in the mountains. By the time the Empire realized what had happened, humans had already stripped the ship bare, its navigation core and FTL schematics now in the hands of Earth scientists. From his command deck, KSAR stared at the wreck reports, a cold weight settling in his gut. We underestimated them, whispered V. Hell. KSAR's mandibles clicked sharply. Not anymore. But it was already too late. Humanity had their first ship, and for the first time, Earth looked to the stars, not as victims, but as hunters. Humanity unleashed. The wrecked alien destroyer had been the turning point. In a bunker beneath Geneva, the world's greatest minds crowded around tables stacked with alien tech. Engineers in stained lab coats argued with generals in mismatched uniforms. A piece of Thalari navigation core hummed softly on the table, its glowing circuits more advanced than anything humans had dreamed of. How long to reverse engineer it? Someone asked. A tired scientist pushed up her glasses, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. A month? Maybe less. We're already halfway there. The answer spread like wildfire. For the first time in history, Earth united. Factories that once built cars now forged starship armor. Shipyards along coastlines bristled with half-human, half-alien craft. The first of these ugly hybrids, the Resolute, rose from a dry dock in California. She was a mess of welded plates and scavenged systems, but she flew. The war had changed. The Thalari outpost on Erixis 3 was quiet, its garrison complacent. They'd heard rumors about humans, about Death Walders who fought like demons, but it all sounded like propaganda. Then the humans came. The Resolute dropped from orbit like a bird of prey, venting fire from her retrofitted thrusters. Human Marines, ragged uniforms, shotguns slung beside stolen plasma rifles, stormed the base. It wasn't clean. It wasn't elegant. It was savage. There inside the walls, an alien officer screeched as gunfire tore through the halls. Humans didn't advance in formation. They swarmed, improvised, broke rules of engagement that Thalari doctrine had assumed every civilized foe would follow. One alien tried to surrender, waving his weapon aside, only to be cuffed, stripped, and marched into a holding pen by humans who were already prying into the base's armories. By the time the smoke cleared, the Thalari flag had been torn down, and a human engineer was spray-painting property of Earth on a captured shuttle. Back on the Imperial capital world, panic spread. Council meetings turned to shouting matches. There were supposed to be primitives, an overseer roared, his crest feathers flaring. We expected spears, not starships. They've liberated 2 colonies already, another hissed. If this continues, it will, someone interrupted. Because it wasn't just humans fighting now. On distant worlds, species long enslaved by the Thalari watched the humans and began to hope. The sight of ragged Terran Marines planting their patchwork flags lit a spark of rebellion. On the Resolute's bridge, Captain Sarah Velasquez stared out at the stars. She wasn't a soldier by training. She'd been a freighter pilot before the invasion. But she was a warrior now. Set course for the next outpost, she ordered. Someone hesitated. Captain, that's deep in their territory. Sarah's jaw tightened. Good. For the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving. We were coming for the Empire. The end of the Empire. The Thalari Empire had never imagined war could reach its heart. Their core worlds had been safe for centuries, insulated by fleets and the sheer weight of their power. But now, human ships, ugly, jagged hybrids of Earth steel and stolen alien tech, poured through their skies like vengeful ghosts. The human fleet wasn't the largest the galaxy had seen. It wasn't even polished. Hulls were dented, wiring was exposed, some ships still smelled of welding torch smoke. But they carried something the Empire had no defense against: relentless fury. Over the capital world of Thalis Prime, alien defense batteries lit the sky with arcs of energy fire. But for every human ship that burned, two more surged forward. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Sarah Velasquez watched the planet's sprawling cities appear on the view screen. "This is it," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Target their command hubs. Leave the civilian zones alone. We're not here to destroy the helpless, just the powerful." Her words spread across every human channel. Even in Vengeance, there were lines humanity refused to cross. The fighting was brutal. Human Marines slammed into the Imperial Palace complex, breaching walls with scavenged plasma charges. The Thalari elite guard fought fiercely, their armor shining, their weapons precise, but they couldn't match the raw, messy aggression of humans who'd learned war by surviving it. In one hallway, a human soldier used a crowbar to pry open a sealed blast door, while another jury-rigged an alien rifle to fire on manual override. When the door finally buckled, the defenders on the other side were overwhelmed in seconds. In the throne chamber, Admiral KSAR stood rigid, his crest feathers limp with shame. He had once called Earth a mudball. He had once laughed at the thought of humans resisting. Now, smoke drifted through the broken skylight as armed humans surrounded the dais. KSAR's mandibles clicked weakly. It wasn't supposed to be like this," he whispered. "You were primitives." Captain Velasquez stepped forward, her armor scorched, her rifle steady. "We were underestimated," she said coldly. "That was your mistake." When the humans planted their flag in the palace ruins, it wasn't just Earth that celebrated. Across the galaxy, enslaved species rose up, inspired by the world that had fought back and won. The Thalari Empire didn't collapse in a single day, but that moment was the breaking point, the day their myth of invincibility shattered.